Hello world, this is append. I am Angela, we are MainStem, and you are tuned in to a tutorial trib style. Alright, so today I'm not even going to be talking about D3 so much, but an aspect of SVG. I want to go over how we can build our own paths. This is something that D3 does have some helper things for, like the SVG line function I've talked about in another video. But I think it'd be useful to kind of go over the nuts and bolts so that you can make your own paths of various kinds, and let's see how those work.
You crazy for this one, Rick?
So to start out with, I included this URL here to the SVG spec for the different paths. So this is something that you'll want to be able to refer to. And what I did was I just took all the parameters here and made these little functions. So each of these functions will return a string that we can set into a path attribute. So to see what's going on, we need to make a string and store it. So let's just make the simplest example. I'm going to move to 100. I'm going to draw a line segment to 200, and then I'm going to draw another line segment to 300. Let's make that 150. And let's see what this gives us. So we have this path here. And how can we use this? Let's make an select our SVG, and we will append a path on. The path works by setting the string to the D attribute. And here's our path. We can do some styling to make it not have fill, to give it a stroke. Let's set a stroke width to something kind of big so we can see it. There's a couple other properties I like to play with. Line join might make it look a little nicer. The line cap is this little, how I made that round down there. We make our stroke even wider. You can see that. And then if we make this go here, you see where the lines join, that's also round. Alright, so now we can play around. See, I was just playing with the x coordinate of the third point, the y coordinate. The move to is just where the path starts. And the first thing we have to note is that these are using absolute coordinates, all these capital letters. If we do, that shouldn't change anything, but this probably will. Yeah. This means relative, so it's actually moving to 200, 100 from where it was. But let's just keep everything in absolute coordinates. So that means that we're just drawing from this top left here, right? So now let's play with some other segments. What can we do? We can add a arc segment. This one's probably the most, I don't know about confusing, but it has the most options. So let's move this over like 400, 200. You can give it like a radius, which we'll have to play with. Rotation, we'll set to 0 for now. C and D are like either 0 or 1. We'll see what those do in a second. And that should be enough. Y, D, R, C, 2, P. Okay, so yeah, so this makes an arc. So the end point is this right here. Let's see how this arc works. It's kind of funny. Make the radius really big. At some point, like making the radius smaller doesn't do anything. I'm not sure what rotation does. I've not been able to get it to affect anything. you do this, it makes it a small arc, I think. So it sort of stretches out differently. Like you can make it really narrow, make the radius bigger, but it doesn't get any fatter. Alright, so the arc, it's kind of a weird one. Let's just comment that one out and play with something more interesting, I think, is these Bezier segments. So these have control points, x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm just kind of choosing these numbers somewhat randomly. So if we move our actual endpoint around, we see it there, and there's some weird rendering artifact. So let's move our control points around. See, our control points allow us to edit the shape of the curve the way that Bezier curve interpolates. And then there's this smooth segment, which takes a point, but it only has one control point, x2, let's see, and I think, so this is like a Bezier curve, but it assumes that the first control point is the same one as this one. So let's see what happens. Yeah, it kind of like moves everything. Is it this maybe? Yeah, now we see both segments moving when I'm changing this control point. There's also a quadratic Bezier segment, which only has one control point. Let's see what this one looks like. X1. Yeah, alright. So I don't know what I'm drawing here, I'm just putting points down. But now you can see all the different ways that you can append path segments together and create whatever curve really you can imagine in 2D. This Q smooth is similar to the other smooth one. Let's see, and that it will take the control point from here and be affected by it. So yeah, let me save this, and you should play with it. Try combining your own segments. Just in case this wasn't clear, when I have an array here and I join it with spaces, when we logged it out earlier, all this is doing is putting all these numbers and putting spaces in between them. So that's just how SVG expects things to be. Alright, looking forward to see what you guys come up with these path segments.